Welcome back, guys, to the Max Out Show. So today I want to share with you one of the key principles to building lasting and true self-esteem and self-confidence in your life. So just about 2 weeks ago, I was talking to Dr. William Damon. He's a Stanford professor and has been named one of the 50 psychologists in the world. And so in our chat, we were discussing this concept of self-esteem and how to actually build it in our lives. And so one of the key ideas that I really wanted to share with you guys here is the following. If you're struggling with self-esteem and self-confidence in your life, then instead of thinking less of yourself, try to think of yourself less. This is really a play with words right here, but here's what I mean. We live in a culture of self-obsession where people are so obsessed over how they look and how they're perceived and judged by other people, meaning most people constantly look at themselves and ask themselves, am I good enough? Am I beautiful enough? Am I smart enough? Am I worthy? Do I deserve to be successful? Do I deserve to be this kind of person, to date this kind of person, to have this kind of lifestyle? We constantly look at ourselves and ask ourselves, are we being judged? How are we being evaluated by other people? And that is a true problem, because the more time we spend obsessing over our own weaknesses and are we good enough? Are we worthy? The more we're going to find reasons for why we're not. You know, the questions you ask yourself are going to determine the answers that you get in your life, because our brains are goal-driving mechanisms. So whatever you ask yourself, wherever you focus on is the answer that you're going to get. That's the focus of your life going to be. And so most people ask themselves these questions because we live in this culture of self-obsession, where it's normal to just ask yourself, how am I doing? But what I've observed, and really the key that I want to share with you here, is that, instead of thinking less of yourself, as most people do, try to think of yourself less, meaning try to spend less time actually thinking about yourself at all. The happiest people, the most confident people that I've ever met, and that I've studied throughout history, the Martin Luther Kings, the Mother Teresas, those great human beings that we obsess about, we celebrate to this day. Those people aren't necessarily always better than others. What they do is they forget about themselves and they focus on other people. Meaning they're so obsessed with not how well am I doing? Am I good enough? Are the words coming out of my mouth, are they good enough? But they focus on the other person. They focus on how can I make them better? How can I make them happier? How can I lift up another person? And as a byproduct of that focus on other people, first of all, they become better. And secondly, they don't have time wondering, am I good enough? Am I beautiful enough? They don't have time for that because they're so monomaniacally focused on just making the world a better place. And as a byproduct of that again, what happens is you start to build self-esteem and you start to build confidence, because you build your identity around being the kind of person that lifts other people up. And this is one of the key principles here also, is that the happiest people, the most confident people are the ones that celebrate other people. They don't need to celebrate themselves all the time, even though that of course is important, but they're so focused on celebrating other people and lifting them up that then they also get the same dopamine hit, they get the same serotonin hit that other people would get from focusing on themselves. They get that from lifting other people up. This is really one of the key principles. If you've been listening to this podcast, making other people happy, lifting them up, supporting them, focusing on them is one of the keys to true and lasting happiness and self-esteem in your life. And so really what I'm trying to suggest to you here is that, if you're struggling with self-esteem, if you are struggling with some things, you've had some bad habits maybe, you've made some mistakes, you've had some failures in the past, and you're focused on that, try to, spend a little bit less time focusing on yourself. Try to focus more on other people and how you can make them happier, because that also is a switch from the past to the future. Focusing on how can I make the future better? How can I improve this further down the line? How can I help other people? And the more time you spend doing that, obsessing relentlessly around how you can change your world for the better, what's going to happen is you don't have time to focus on all the bad stuff about yourself. You don't have time to focus on those things, but instead you're building this new version of yourself and therefore drowning out the old and the negative.